for making these changes. I really want to reiterate what was said and actually read out by the member for Clark in terms of robodebt, because I think the government has made a huge deal, and I think rightly so, about the impact of robodebt on individuals and the enormous stain that it is on Australian sort of political public service history. But then to ignore something which was so clearly put in the robodebt Royal Commission, and in some cases it seems to mischaracterise some of what the robodebt Royal Commission said, and saying somehow that this fits within the robodebt Royal Commission's observations and recommendations, I think is very disappointing. And I'm disappointed, I'll be honest, with the Prime Minister, who, in a question I asked specifically on this issue, denied that robodebt had anything to do with FOI, when in fact the robodebt Royal Commission is explicit in that in relation to cabinet confidentiality and how that inhibited and negative for robodebt. I'd also like to make the observation more broadly about what we're trying to do in this country to improve the quality of debate. And Mike Burgess, the head of ASIO, spoke yesterday very powerfully at the Lowy Institute, talking about the need to disagree well, to have fact-based and broad-based conversations, and to do this in an effective way. And let's be honest, the Parliament doesn't do that very often. But I think that to do that well, we actually need the information to back it up. We do need the frank and fearless advice of the public service to be more available to the country rather than less available to country, so that we can have the debates that we need to have in this country about difficult political and public issues. And these are, there are many, difficult challenges that we are facing as a country, economically, socially, and really as a member of the public rather than a member of the Parliament, I would love more of that information to be out there in the public domain, so that as a member of the public I can be better informed about whether the government is serving the people or whether it's not, and what policies we should or shouldn't be considering, or what policies perhaps have been considered and why justifiably they have been left alone. I think in the dearth and the sort of vacuum of information, you will have other players who play, and I respect many of the think tanks and others who play in this space, but there are also many bad actors who play in this space and who try and fill that void of good public data and good public debate, with sometimes quite misleading information that actually decreases trust. So this is where I wish the government, and I urge the government, to rethink completely its approach on this FOI bill and say, what would it take to increase transparency in this country, to give people more confidence actually in government, and actually more information and certainty, and so our community can be more well informed about what are the good policy choices that we should be urging our government to be making, and what are the difficult trade-offs that we urge our government to be making. Because let's be honest, there are very difficult trade-offs here, but most Australians do not have access to the public service advice that helps make those difficult trade-offs clear. And certainly, so I'm very much supporting what the FOI recommendations coming out of the robodebt. We should be decreasing the restrictions in relation to cabinet documents rather than increasing. So I once again recommend and urge the government to support the member for Indi's amendment here, because I think it goes to the heart of both, I think, building trust in government but building a better public debate, and I think both of those things are really critical.